The Galactic Tribunal isolates Earth, but humanity's response stunned the universe. The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Tribunal glowed with the light of 1,000 stars. Dr. Minji Park stood with her small team of Earth representatives, feeling very small among the diverse alien species gathered in the Grand Chamber. This was supposed to be Earth's welcome ceremony into the galactic community. After decades of preparation following first contact, humanity was ready to join the stars. Minji studied the tribunal members seated in tiered rows above them. Some had tentacles, others multiple eyes, and a few appeared to be made of pure energy. Despite years of diplomatic training, she still felt awe at the gathering of civilizations, each thousands or millions of years older than human society. Representatives of Earth, began High Arbiter Krell, an ancient being with gray-blue skin and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them. We have reviewed your application for membership in the Galactic Confederation. Beside Minji, Ambassador Junho Lee straightened his formal diplomatic uniform, a smile of anticipation on his face. Chief Scientist Do-Hyun Kim clutched his data tablet, ready to answer any final questions about Earth's technological readiness. The tribunal has reached a decision, continued Krell, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. By unanimous vote, Earth is deemed too dangerous to join galactic society. The words hit Minji like a physical blow. There must be some mistake, she whispered. Ambassador Lee stepped forward. Honorable Arbiter, we have met all the technological and social requirements. We come in peace. Peace is not our concern, said another tribunal member, a being made of crystalline structures that shifted and chimed as she spoke. Your species advances too rapidly. What took others millennia, you achieve in decades. Your adaptability is concerning. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Earth will be isolated, effective immediately, declared Krell. A containment barrier will be erected around your solar system. No ships will enter or leave. No communications will be permitted. Do-Hyun's face paled. You're quarantining our entire planet? Our entire species? It is for the safety of the galaxy, said Krell without emotion. The vote is final. As guards, move to escort the human delegation back to their ship. Minji noticed something in the eyes of the elder species. Not just caution, but fear. The journey back to Earth was silent and heavy. Through the viewport of their ship, they watched as massive alien vessels positioned themselves at the edge of the solar system. Strange energy fields began to form between them, creating a web that would soon become an impenetrable barrier. They fear us, said Minji, finally breaking the silence. Not because we're dangerous, but because we're different. Do-Hyun nodded slowly. Our rate of advancement threatens their power structure. The oldest species have ruled for millions of years because they develop so slowly. We represent change. Ambassador Lee stared at the growing barrier with determination in his eyes. Then we'll have to prove them wrong. When they landed on Earth, the news spread quickly. Panic erupted in major cities as humans realized they were now prisoners in their own solar system. Markets crashed, riots broke out, and for a moment, it seemed the tribunal had been right about human volatility. But then something unexpected happened. 3 days after the announcement, Dr. Minji Park stood before the emergency United Nations session. Representatives from every nation watched as she activated a holographic display. The barrier they're building has a flaw, she explained, pointing to energy fluctuations in her readings. It's based on their understanding of physics, not ours. They've overlooked something fundamental about quantum mechanics that we've only recently discovered. The room grew quiet. I propose Project Aurora, a global initiative to develop technology that could penetrate the barrier, but it will require cooperation unlike anything in human history. Chief Scientist Do-Hyun stepped forward. Nations will need to share their most classified research. Competitors will need to become partners. We'll need resources from every corner of Earth. Ambassador Lee addressed the assembly. The tribunal thinks isolation will weaken us or prove their point about our dangerous nature. Instead, let's show them something they've never seen before. humanity united by hope rather than divided by fear. As the vote was tallied, Minji watched the representatives of Earth. Ancient rivalries and modern conflicts were set aside as, one by one, nations pledged their support. The isolation of Earth had begun, but so had humanity's most ambitious project, and the universe had no idea what was coming. 6 months after Earth's isolation, the initial panic had settled into grim determination. In what was once the United Nations headquarters, a new organization had formed, the Earth Unity Council. Representatives from every nation gathered not to argue, but to save their species. Minji Park stood at the central podium, dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept properly since returning from the tribunal. On the massive screen behind her, data scrolled showing the alien barrier's energy patterns. "The barrier is complete," she announced to the silent room. "No signal can penetrate it. No ship can pass through it. We are completely cut off from the galaxy." In the front row, Do-hyun studied his own readings and frowned. "But there's something odd about the quantum signature. It doesn't match any known alien technology we studied during first contact." Tae-woo, formerly South Korea's leading energy scientist, raised his hand. "Dr. Park, I've analyzed the barrier's energy output. It's not just containing us, it's watching us." A murmur went through the room. Minji nodded grimly. "The tribunal wants to observe how we respond to isolation. They're expecting us to fight among ourselves to prove their point that we're too dangerous." "Then we'll show them something different," said Jisoo, representing the newly formed Global Science Collective. She stood up, her voice firm despite her small frame. "Project Aurora is ready to begin. We've gathered the best minds from every field. Now we need resources." The world had changed dramatically in the month since isolation. Old enemies now shared technology freely. Nations that had hoarded resources now contributed to the global effort. The threat of extinction had accomplished what centuries of diplomacy could not: true cooperation. In a massive underground facility carved into the mountains of neutral Switzerland, Project Aurora took shape. Scientists who once competed now worked side by side. Military engineers collaborated with civilian researchers. The facility operated around the clock, with teams from different time zones ensuring the work never stopped. Minji walked through the bustling main laboratory, stopping to check progress at various stations. Tae-woo approached her with a holographic model of the barrier. "We've confirmed my theory," he said, excitement in his voice. "The barrier operates on principles similar to our newest quantum theories, but with a fundamental misunderstanding of how light interacts with space-time at the quantum level. Can we exploit that?" asked Minji. "Maybe," said Tae-woo. "But we'll need something that doesn't exist yet. A quantum phase shifter that can temporarily move matter partially outside normal space." Do-hyun joined them, carrying a small device. "I think we've taken the first step. This prototype can shift a single particle partially out of phase with normal matter. The problem is power. To shift something as large as a ship would require more energy than we can currently generate." Jisoo approached with a tablet displaying complex calculations. "What if we don't need to power it ourselves? What if we can harness the barrier's own energy?" The idea sparked a new direction for the project. While one team worked on developing the phase shifter, another focused on finding ways to tap into the barrier's massive energy field. Outside the facility, life on Earth continued. People adjusted to isolation in different ways. Some turned to faith, others to art and culture. A new sense of unity emerged as humans realized they were truly alone together in the universe. Families gathered nightly to look at the stars, now seemingly out of reach. Children asked when they could visit other worlds. Parents promised, someday, and hoped it wasn't a lie. In the project's residential wing, Minji stood at the window of her small apartment, looking at the night sky. Do-hyun joined her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Sometimes I wonder if we're fighting a losing battle," she confessed. "The civilizations that built that barrier are millions of years ahead of us." "In technology, yes," said Do-hyun, "but not in spirit. They built the barrier out of fear. We're working to overcome it with hope." That's the human difference. A soft beep from Minji's communicator interrupted them. It was Taewoo, his voice trembling with excitement. "You need to come to Lab 7 right now," he said. "The micro-shifter prototype just passed through a solid wall. It works, Minji. It actually works." As Minji and Do-Yun rushed to the lab, the first real sense of hope spread through the facility. Humanity wasn't just responding to isolation, they were preparing to break free of it. And somewhere beyond the barrier, the watching aliens had no idea what was coming. Retry SFTU. Years into Earth's isolation, Project Aurora had transformed from a desperate idea into humanity's greatest achievement. The underground facility in Switzerland had expanded to 3 times its original size, with specialized labs extending deep into the mountain. In the central testing chamber, Minji stood behind reinforced glass as technicians prepared for the day's experiment. On the platform sat a small metal sphere, barely the size of a basketball. It didn't look impressive, but it represented thousands of hours of work by the brightest minds on Earth. "Phase shifter test 47, announced Taewoo over the intercom. "Power at 30% capacity." Do-Yun joined Minji at the window, his face tense. "The last test melted the containment field. Are you sure the new calculations are correct?" "No," admitted Minji. "But that's science. We try, we fail, we learn." The lights dimmed as power redirected to the test chamber. The small sphere began to glow with a soft blue light. Then, slowly, it started to become transparent, as if fading from reality itself. "Phase shift achieving stability," reported Jisoo from her monitoring station. "Quantum state holding at 60% normal matter, 40% shifted." The sphere now looked like a ghost of itself, partially there and partially somewhere else. And then, something miraculous happened. It began to move, passing through the solid metal barrier that had been placed in front of it. The room erupted in cheers. For the first time, they had achieved a stable phase shift that allowed matter to pass through a solid object. It was the breakthrough they had been working toward for months, but the celebration was short-lived. As the sphere emerged on the other side of the barrier, it suddenly collapsed in on itself, creating a brief flash of light before disappearing completely. "Another failure," sighed Taewoo, removing his safety glasses. "No," said Minji firmly. "Progress. The sphere held its phase shift longer than ever before. We're getting closer." That evening, the core team gathered in the facility's small cafeteria. Despite the day's partial success, frustration was evident on everyone's faces. "The problem is scale," explained Jisoo, pushing her food around her plate. "We can shift small objects briefly, but the energy requirements increase exponentially with size. To shift something as large as a ship would require more power than Earth can generate," finished Taewoo. They ate in silence for a moment. Then Hanbin, a young physicist who had been quiet until now, looked up from his tablet. "What if we don't need to shift the entire ship?" he suggested. "What if we only need to shift the outer shell?" The idea sparked new life into the team. They abandoned their meal and returned to the lab, working through the night to recalculate their approach. 3 months later, the first human-sized phase shifter was ready for testing. It was a suit rather than a vehicle, designed to create a phase-shifted field around a person without shifting their entire body. "I'll test it," said Minji, before anyone could volunteer. "It's too dangerous," protested Do-Yun. "We've only tested it on small animals." "And they all survived," Minji countered. "Besides, I'm the one who proposed this project. I should be the one to take the risk." The testing chamber was reconfigured for human trials. Minji stood in the center, wearing what looked like a sleek silver wetsuit covered in tiny sensors and emitters. Her heart raced, but her face remained calm as technicians made final adjustments. "Remember," said Taewoo through her earpiece, "once your phase shifted, you'll feel disconnected from normal space. It might be disorienting. If anything feels wrong, activate the emergency shutdown." Minji nodded. "Starting phase shift in 3, 2, 1. She pressed the activation button on her wrist. The sensation was unlike anything she had experienced, like being submerged in water yet able to breathe. The world around her took on a bluish tint. Sounds became muffled. Slowly, she walked toward the thick concrete wall that had been placed in the chamber. As she reached it, she closed her eyes and stepped forward. For a moment, she felt resistance, as if walking through thick mud. Then she was through, standing on the other side of a solid wall. Through the blur of her phase-shifted vision, she could see the control room erupting in celebration. She had done it. The first human to walk through a solid object. The implications were enormous. If they could perfect this technology, they might be able to pass through the alien barrier itself. As the phase shift wore off and Minji returned to normal space, she knew they had just changed the course of human history. The isolation of Earth would not be permanent after all. Humanity had found a way to defy the impossible once again. The Determination, Earth's first phase shift-capable ship, floated silently at the edge of the solar system. From the outside, it looked like a sleek silver craft with no visible windows or thrusters. Inside, Minji checked the final systems as her small crew prepared for humanity's most important journey. Phase shift drive at full power, reported Taewoo from the engineering station. The barrier is 2 kilometers ahead. Minji looked at the 4 people who had volunteered for this mission. Do-hyun sat at the navigation console, his hand steady despite the danger. Jisoo monitored the ship's quantum state, ready to make adjustments. Hanbin watched the barrier's energy patterns, looking for the perfect moment to attempt their escape. "Remember," said Minji, "we'll have approximately 40 seconds in phase-shifted state before the power cells deplete. That should be enough time to pass through the barrier." What she didn't say was what they all knew. If the calculations were wrong, they would either be trapped half in and half out of normal space, or completely destroyed. "Barrier activity showing regular pattern," said Hanbin. "Optimal moment for crossing will occur in 30 seconds. The crew strapped themselves into their seats. The phase shift would affect the ship and everything inside it, but the process was known to cause extreme discomfort. Initiating phase shift in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Minji pressed the activation control. The interior of the ship took on the now familiar bluish tint as they partially shifted out of normal space. The sensation was like being underwater while still able to breathe. Disorienting, but manageable. "Forward thrusters," ordered Minji. Ship moved toward the shimmering wall of energy that had isolated Earth for 3 years. As they approached, monitoring systems showed alien patrol ships on the other side, unaware of their approach. "Contact in 3 seconds, said Do-hyun. 2, 1. The ship reached the barrier. For a heart-stopping moment, they felt resistance, as if pushing through thick gel. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. "Phase stability dropping," reported Jisoo urgently. "The barrier is interfering with our field." "Increase power to the phase generators," ordered Minji, fighting to keep her voice calm. Taewoo diverted emergency power to the systems. The ship shuddered violently, metal groaning under stresses it was never designed to withstand. And then, suddenly, they were through. "We did it," whispered Do-hyun in disbelief. "We're outside the barrier." They had only moments to celebrate before alarms blared. The alien patrol ships had detected them. "They're coming about," warned Hanbin. 3 vessels, heavily armed. "We can't phase shift again for at least 6 hours, said Taewoo. "The system needs to recharge." Minji had anticipated this moment. "Activate the secondary systems." What the Galactic Tribunal didn't know was that humans had been studying alien technology since first contact. While developing the phase shifter, they had also reverse-engineered alien propulsion systems, creating something entirely new. The ship's hidden thrusters came online, utilizing principles of physics the aliens had overlooked. The Determination shot forward at speeds that shocked the alien patrols, quickly leaving them behind. "Set course for the Arsani homeworld," instructed Minji. They were the only species who voted against our isolation. 3 days later, they approached the beautiful blue-green planet of the Arsani. Instead of the welcome they had hoped for, they found themselves surrounded by Arsani defense ships. "They're hailing us," said Jisu. The view screen activated to show an Arsani official, his feathered crest raised in alarm. "Human vessel, you are in violation of tribunal law. Power down immediately." Minji stepped forward. "I am Dr. Minji Park, of Earth. We come seeking asylum and to share the truth about our isolation." "The truth?" The Arsani seemed confused. "The tribunal reported that humans chose isolation after demonstrating dangerous technology." "That's a lie," said Do-hyun fiercely. "We were forcibly contained against our will." The Arsani's expression changed. "These are serious claims. If what you say is true, let us land," requested Minji. "Let us show you what really happened." After tense negotiations, the Arsani granted permission to land at an isolated facility. As they descended toward the planet, Minji knew this was just the beginning. They had escaped Earth's prison, but convincing the galaxy of the tribunal's deception would be even harder. Yet as she looked at her determined crew, she felt hope. Humanity had already accomplished the impossible once. They would do it again. The grand chamber of the Galactic Tribunal buzzed with shock and outrage. Security forces surrounded the entrances as the news spread. Humans had breached the isolation barrier. And not just any humans. A small delegation led by Dr. Minji Park had somehow managed to gain entry to the most secure location in the galaxy. Minji stood calmly at the center of the chamber, flanked by Do-hyun, Tae-woo, and representatives from 17 different alien species. The Arsani ambassador Suho stood proudly beside her. In the month since their landing on the Arsani homeworld, they had gathered allies among the younger species who had long been dominated by the ancient civilizations of the tribunal. "This meeting is not authorized," declared High Arbiter Krell, his tentacles writhing with agitation. "Guards, remove these intruders." "Before you do," said Minji, her voice carrying through the chamber, "I suggest you hear what we have to say. Especially since we've broadcast a signal that has disabled the isolation barrier around Earth." A stunned silence fell over the assembly. "Impossible," whispered one of the elder species. Minji activated a small device on her wrist. A holographic display appeared, showing the barrier around Earth flickering and then disappearing completely. "How did you accomplish this?" demanded Krell. "The same way we escaped," replied Minji. "We found flaws in your understanding of quantum mechanics, flaws that allowed us to develop technology you thought impossible." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many of the younger species were looking at the humans with newfound respect. "The barrier was supposed to contain your dangerous nature," said Krell. "You have only proven our point by breaking it." "No," countered Do-hyun, stepping forward. "We've proven exactly what you feared, that humanity adapts and innovates at a rate you can't control." Tae-woo activated another holographic display, showing Earth's technological progress over the 3 years of isolation. "In 3 years," explained Minji, "we developed technology that, by your own timeline projections, should have taken us centuries, and we did it not through aggression or conquest, but through global cooperation." Suho, the Arsani ambassador, addressed the chamber. "The humans have shared with us the true reason for their isolation. It wasn't about safety. It was about fear. The elder species' fear of becoming obsolete." Angry denials erupted from the ancient members of the tribunal, but many of the younger species nodded in agreement. "For millennia," continued Suho, "the oldest civilizations have controlled the pace of advancement, ensuring their continued dominance. Humans represent a threat to that control." Minji stepped forward again. "We don't come seeking revenge or dominance. We come offering partnership. Consider what could be achieved if the elder species shared their wisdom, while younger species, including humans, contributed our innovation." A representative from the crystalline species that had voted for Earth's isolation floated down to the chamber floor. Unlike her peers, she was younger, her structures less rigid. "I have studied the human technology they shared with the Arsani," she said, her voice chiming like bells. "It is remarkable not just in its advancement, but in its approach. They see connections we have overlooked for millennia." More representatives descended to the chamber floor, gathering around the human delegation. The balance of power in the room was visibly shifting. High Arbiter Krell raised his tentacles for silence. "What exactly are you proposing, human?" "New Galactic Covenant," said Minji. "One based on mutual respect and cooperation rather than age and tradition. Equal representation for all species. Knowledge shared freely. Advancement that benefits everyone." "And if we refuse?" asked Krell. "Then Earth will go its own way," replied Minji simply. "The barrier is down. We can travel the stars now, and many species here today have already expressed interest in direct relations with humanity, outside tribunal control." The implied threat was clear. The old order was ending one way or another. After hours of heated debate, a vote was called. One by one, species voted for the new covenant, until even the eldest civilizations, seeing the tide of change, reluctantly agreed. As Minji watched ships from dozens of worlds set course for Earth, bringing knowledge and friendship rather than restrictions, she felt both pride and humility. Humanity had proven itself worthy of the stars not through conquest or power, but through perseverance, innovation, and hope. The isolation had ended, and the universe would never be the same.